In the lower semi-arid lands of Baringo County reside communities belonging to the Endorois, Turkana, Ilchamus and Pokot ethnic minority groups. Since independence, these vulnerable people have been subjected to systematic discrimination and marginalization through restricted participation in political, administrative and economic decision-making processes.
In the year 2002, when we started working with marginalized communities in Baringo, it was a period when there was a lot of clamor for constitutional reforms and multipartyism. Then the Kanu regime was very strong, and the way things were in Baringo was that most of the vulnerable communities and ethnic minorities were in the lowlands of Baringo, the then Baringo district. And there was a lot of inequality in terms of resource allocation. There was a lot of political marginalization in terms of leadership from most of these communities in the lowland areas of Baringo district. So we are dealing with a community that was more or less resigned because they did not have the power and even the opportunity to raise most of their issues then, because the kind of regime then was very strong and to some extent dictatorial.
Only 7 to 10% of these communities participated in decision-making of development projects funded by the Local Authority Transfer Fund, LATIF, and the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. Furthermore, up to 50% of them have had restricted access to pasture, water, and other resources for much of the last 50 years. The restrictions have been occasioned by dominance by the more populous, educated, and well-connected Tugen elites.
Initially, before CEDGG came in, the issue on democracy and governance was the main things. Nobody knew that they had power to challenge the government on the governance issue. They didn't know that they had power to ask questions on money allocated to them. And in totality, they didn't know that they have the power as a people to question the leadership of the day.
I saw it the way we were suffering as community, and I decided to offer myself to be among the few who are coming out to defend the rights of the community. And in the process, we did suffer a lot with government and those who were in leadership arresting us. And later on, I discovered it's good, not me fighting as an individual, but the best way is to form an organization that will fight longer, that will live more than us, and even to assist the others.
Access to information was almost non-existent. Lack of interest by the communities and a resigned attitude also enhanced the problems of abuse of human rights, since no one was willing to follow up on matters if their rights were abused. Similarly, in the informal settlements, slums in Nakuru and Naivasha towns of Nakuru County, there are more vulnerable and marginalized groups who include the poor, the unemployed, orphans, widows, people living with disabilities, and HIV/AIDS. In the case of the urban poor in Nakuru and Naivasha towns, the plight has been lack of clean and adequate water supply, decent housing, insecurity, and drug abuse.
Before CEDGG came in, we had a lot of problems in that citizens were not involved in governance issues. For instance, the issue of citizens' participation was not there before.
These ethnic minorities in Baringo County and the marginalized urban poor in Nakuru County constitute the vulnerable groups that have no ample access to basic needs and livelihood services due to discrimination from participating in the societal decision-making and leadership processes.
Community sensitization programs that largely dealt on civic education, on the Constitution, as far as community rights are concerned and responsibilities, was one of the key interventions that we started with. And civic awareness has really raised the ability of these communities to speak and ask the right questions to the duty bearers as far as their rights are concerned.
In the last 10 years, A significant portion of these vulnerable groups in the two counties have enjoyed improved access to natural resources, information, and are advocating for their rights. They are able to participate in processes like CDF project auditing. This has been made possible by the interventions of the Center for Enhancing Democracy and Good Governance, CEDGG. Established in 1995, the center has helped the communities to become enlightened and become aware of their rights. It has created awareness through the dissemination of the Constitution in the year 2010 in a simplified manner, educating the public on their roles in the new political dispensation, conducting vigorous civic education, capacity building workshops, creating linkages between the community and duty bearers, and carrying out public litigations.
When CEDGG came, you may find that a woman or a youth can be able to talk on behalf of the rest in front of the leaders, asking for their share, asking for their rights. And that is why, as we speak now, the changes are seen in the ground, because you may see some women attending chief's parazas, attending any other parazas. But before, you could even see a woman standing in front of leaders.
With civic awareness and empowerment, communities have been more organized. We've seen the emergence and formation of advocacy issue-based networks among communities in Baringo and Nakuru to advocate and agitate for their rights, to advocate for improved public service delivery. In Nakuru County, we've seen the emergence of communities in the informal settlement within the municipality, forming what we are calling neighborhood and residence association. These have provided platforms for articulation of issues affecting them and engaging with municipal council authorities and even departmental heads at the district headquarters.
The local communities now have the courage to question the decisions made by government development agencies and participate actively in the decision-making processes rather than being passive. The communities now have courage to seek legal redress for injustices, most notably the Endorois community getting back their community land. CEDGG has also trained social auditors who track the progress of projects, ensuring that they are completed on time and within the budgetary allocations.
Recently, there is this facility called social audit, which was introduced, and we were auditing projects financed by CDF and financed by LATIF. But we have also come up with other projects financed by Kenya government, like the economic stimulus program. CEDGG is our, you can call it our mentor. They have actually trained us. They have taken us in several seminars. They have also been assisting us in funding some of these social audit functions.
One of their critical interventions has been in terms of ensuring participation of citizens in devolved funds before we got the devolved government. And they are continuing that with the devolution. But in the past, particularly in terms of CDF, they ensured that public participation, as was enshrined in the acts, was put in place.
Some of the success factors of these achievements within the 10 years of CEDGG existence has been its use of a people-based approach that involves working directly with the community members and incorporating them in their programs. The organization works with existing community groups like youth, women, and resident neighborhood associations, thus building formidable networks throughout the community. CEDGG stands out from other organizations not only because of its bottom-up approach, but also because of its issue-based approach to dealing with matters that concern the community.
The way I look at CEDGG is that the entry point strategy is good, because they try to identify key stakeholders at community level and make them participate in all their processes from the start of a program to the end of the program, so it doesn't break in between. Yeah.
There have been some challenges facing CEDGG as they carry out their work. A key challenge is financial constraints that interfere with the smooth running of their programs.
One key problem is their financial capacity. The second one is they have a very small human resource in the office. So most of the we have to pack up as communities on voluntary basis. Yeah.
In some communities, especially the remote parts of Baringo, insecurity is a major hindrance since organizing forums is often interrupted. In some instances, the communities have expressed greater expectations from CEDGG and expect it to support their social projects like schools and health centers. In the coming 5-year strategic planning period 2013 to 2017, CEDGG will focus on 3 core programs, namely governance and devolution, human rights and access to justice, partnership networking, and knowledge development, as well as strategic organizational strengthening. For the organization to have greater impact in the community in the future, it is considering to have a strong research component to generate more analytical and innovative products that will spur the changes in the condition of the vulnerable groups. The organization is also expanding its scope of coverage to include Kericho County through strategic partnership with local organizations who have expressed interest. They are also exploring localized resource mobilization avenues and working more closely with like-minded institutions for implementation synergy. The organization will be upscaling robust media advocacy and training programs. The core program of the 5-year strategic plan will cost CEDGG an estimated 150 million Kenyan shillings to implement. Currently, CEDGG operates on an annual budget of 10 million Kenyan shillings, which includes a substantial amount from existing partners such as UNDP, Amkeni wa Kenya, Open Society for East Africa OSEA, Constitution and Reform Education Consortium, CRECO, GIZ and Uraia, against a requirement of 30 million Kenyan shillings, creating a deficit of 20 million Kenyan shillings. The organization is able to raise 1 million Kenyan shillings per annum in terms of local resources mobilization efforts. It is appealing to well-wishers to consider partnership for financial and technical assistance as follows. Governance and devolution, annual budget 10 million Kenyan shillings and 50 million shillings in 5 years. Human rights and access to justice, annual budget 10 million Kenyan shillings and 50 million Kenyan shillings in 5 years. Partnership, networking and knowledge management, annual budget 5 million Kenyan shillings and 25 million Kenyan shillings in 5 years. Organization development, annual budget 5 million Kenyan shillings and 25 million Kenyan shillings in 5 years.
We already are seeing a lot of resistance from government to the full implementation of this constitution. That is only a pointer that this kind of work that we've been doing to empower marginalized groups must continue in a bigger way and in a more reorganized way. That's why we are appealing to our development partners and more importantly, the donor community to consider extending more resources to CEDGG to be able to not only intensify the work it does, but also to reach out to other neighboring areas and counties that are really in demand of the kind of services we provide. This will only be possible if you have got a strong resource base to be able to roll out our policies, our systems, and our strategies in terms of delivering on our key result areas in the next 5 years.
What we actually ask of our donors and partners is to support us in this cause. And we have 3 critical areas which we feel we need to ask our partners to be able to help us. In the area of governance and devolution, we need to play a role to make sure that these marginalized groups and vulnerable groups actually access services. They participate in the decision-making process. Secondly, we want these vulnerable groups to demand for their rights. And using our past, where we've done so well in the area of human rights in this region, we feel we have a role also to ensure that these beneficiaries, these people demand their rights and they can be able to access justice as is enshrined in the Constitution. We also want to partner with other organizations to be able to deliver on this mandate. We know CEDGG alone cannot be able to do it.
Awek tochi, waju tabis.